Imagine a world in which Apple didn't give up on their plans to make an EV, but instead brought us a compact electric 4x4. I'm betting the results would have looked absolutely nothing like this, the iCAR 03. iCAR knows exactly what they're doing with this brand name. When Apple announced that they were giving up on their plans to make an EV, iCAR took to Chinese social media to say, "Don't worry, Apple fans, we'll make the iCAR for you." iCAR, it's a dumb name for a brand, and it takes me back over a decade ago when people were throwing the letter I in front of every single product in order to associate it with Apple's iPhone and iPod. Did they really think they could convince us that the I umbrella and the I table were made by Apple? What do they think? I stupid?
At least we can say with confidence that the iCAR 03 is cheaper than any vehicle that would have come from Apple, with prices ranging from $15,400 to $23,500 US.
Allow me to address the giant, yellow, sticker-covered elephant in the room. We borrowed this car from an iCar dealership where it was being used for customer test drives, and clearly they didn't think it was eye-catching enough in its original green paint, so they wrapped it in yellow, including the wheels, and then they added a bunch of stickers on the side. Even I think this is a step too far, and I dress like this. Look past the eye-searing wrap and the goofy name, however, and you'll see that the 03 is a big, square breath of fresh air in a world of jelly bean-shaped SUVs. It looks especially square here on the front end because they've made the DRLs, the headlights, and the grille, faux grille obviously, stick to the edges of the hood. While I dislike the name, I do like the logo, and so does iCar, because they put it absolutely everywhere on this car. The 03 comes standard with a roof rack and has available 18 or 19-inch wheels. These are the 19s. It only measures 4.4 meters in length, but it has the presence of a much larger vehicle. Credit that to the overall square shape, but also these beefy combination of fender flares in the body and also black plastic cladding. I promised you more iCar logos, and the rear is where I'm going to deliver. There are 5 different iCar logos here between the taillights, the badges, and this big logo right here on this black box. Now, it's a little hard to see because they've wrapped it in black. Normally it would be a little more obvious. It's also a little dusty. Sorry about that. Press the dot at the top of that big iCar logo and you will discover that this is not actually an undersized spare wheel cover, but rather a storage box. Yes, it does lock along with the rest of the car. However, these elastic straps down here, they look like they're going to wear out real quick. The 03 has a barn-style rear door with soft close. You can open it to any degree that you would like and it will stay there, or open it all the way and then lock it there by turning this strut. The rear cargo area isn't particularly deep, but it is quite tall. Unfortunately, so is the load floor.
There is an advantage to that, however. Having a tall floor allows you to have a completely flat rear cargo area when you lift up the seat bottoms and fold down the seat backs. Useful if you were hoping to sleep inside your 03 while camping, though you better be comfortable leaving the rear door open.
Underneath the second row is another 24 liters of cargo space. Not the prettiest thing I've ever seen, but I appreciate the effort at maximizing utility. What I appreciate a whole lot less is whoever decided to leave a toothbrush under here. Let's do this. Let's close this up, pretend we never saw that, and talk about second row comfort. Head and leg room are quite copious, as you can see. However, the seat bottoms are a little bit short, in my opinion, and the floor is a little bit tall. Maybe the seat is a little bit low. Either way, it's not the best possible seating position. It's not somewhere that I would want to spend an entire road trip, for example. Down here on the rear of the center console are 2 USB charging ports, a Type A and a 60-watt Type-C fast charging port. Up on the door, we obviously have our button for opening and closing the doors, our button for opening and closing the windows, and this little star button right here, which will activate
你好，左后乘客
your voice command system for the rear seat right here. There's also one, of course, on the other side. I feel like the interior designs of a lot of 4x4s are cartoonishly manly. Like they feel like they have to have everything squared off and all the handles have to look like they come from a gun or something like that. I'm glad to say that the interior designers on the O3 do not fall into this trap. There are some very square elements, such as the air vents over here, and there's plenty of grab handles, like this, which are good for off-roading, but it doesn't look like it was designed by a testosterone addict whose favorite form of entertainment is watching MMA highlights on TikTok. Hey look, there's another iCAR logo here on the dash. All iCAR 03s come standard with a 15.6-inch center screen. Lower spec cars use a 6155 processor from Qualcomm, whereas higher spec cars like this use an 8155. There is not an English language menu available from iCAR as of yet, but it does support Huawei HiCar. All versions of the 03 also come with an instrument cluster. However, only higher spec cars like this get the full color unit. Otherwise, it's a simpler black and white style. However, all but the base car come with a 50-watt wireless charging pad. The 03 has electrically adjusted seats here in the front row, but the functions on those seats are somewhat confusing, at least to me. There is available heated, massaging, and ventilated seats, but our car only has the heated front row seats. That's perfectly fine. This car also has adjustable thigh support down here. I'm also fine with that. But what's confusing to me is they have adjustable thigh support, but they don't have adjustable lumbar support. One of those things is much more important than the other, at least in my opinion. The 03 is standard with an 8-speaker sound system, but if you've got the cash, you can opt for a 12-speaker Infinity system instead. iCAR currently only offers the 03 in pure electric form, but there are 3 different LFP battery packs available: a 50.6, a 65.7, and a 69.7 kilowatt hour. Those will deliver a CLTC range of 401 to 501 kilometers and charge from 30 to 80% in half an hour. If you've watched a review of other Chery products, you'll remember that the driving experience for those cars, which varies from bad to barely acceptable, isn't a major selling point for the brand. Imagine my surprise then when I got behind the wheel of the 03 and discovered it actually drives pretty darn well. You can get this thing with a single rear-mounted motor or, like this car, a dual-motor powertrain, which makes 205 kilowatts and 385 newton-meters of torque. Now, that's not mind-blowing power for a dual-motor EV, but it's enough to push this thing to 100 kilometers per hour or 62 miles per hour in just 6.5 seconds. Honestly, it feels even faster than that because the soft suspension allows the front end to rise noticeably under hard acceleration. I'm not complaining about the suspension, however, because it provides a very composed and solid ride, especially for such an affordable vehicle. It also has decent damping. That's more than I can say for the Chery Tiggo 7 Plus we reviewed, which gave me a real harsh sensation over bumps.
We didn't take the 03 through any serious trails, but its McPherson strut front and multi-link rear suspension were more than up to the task of handling a bumpy dirt and gravel road.
Ground clearance isn't especially impressive at just 17 centimeters, but iCar does seem to want you to take this thing off-road because they've offered a bunch of different off-road driving modes, from all-terrain to slippery surface, loose surface, and uneven or rocky surface, you might say. It also has available all-terrain tires. Remember when I said earlier this thing wasn't particularly powerful for a dual-motor EV? I'm starting to think that's because their goal wasn't to make it quick. It was actually to make it more capable off-road. And guess what? You don't need 400 kilowatts to do that. Getting back to the on-road experience of the 03, you can get this thing with everything from bog standard cruise control to radar-guided cruise control with lane keep assist like this car, all the way up to the very, very top spec car, which offers a level 2++ ADAS system from DJI, the drone maker. That system is vision only. It gets rid of the radar units on this car, but it adds highway NOA. Even more interestingly, they say that their system can mimic the city NOA capabilities of systems like Xpunk's XNGP and Huawei Inside using what they call MOD, or Memory on Driving. This system will memorize up to 10 specific routes measuring up to 150 kilometers in length. And along those routes, it will again act as if it has city NOA, responding to stoplights, making turns, so on and so forth. Another interesting point is that I've been told that very few 03s have been equipped with this system as of yet. Whether that's due to a lack of interest from consumers or because there's some difficulty with manufacturing or tuning the system, I do not know. One final note. This thing is essentially a box, so despite the fact that the front row does have dual pane glass, NVH, particularly wind noise over 100 kilometers per hour, is very noticeable. Driving that fast with this level of aerodynamics is probably going to have a big negative impact on your range anyways, so my personal advice is, if you have to drive a 03 for a long distance, do so at a leisurely pace. iCAR 03 is a nice little electric SUV with interesting exterior styling, good interior features, and a driving experience that outclasses every other Chery I've ever reviewed. What a shame it is then that they had to give it such a dumb name.